So as Marco said, I'm a graduate student. I work on a physics experiment called LIGO. I also contribute to a number of open source software projects that I come across in my research. And since I have a Mac, I contribute to MacPorts. And MacPorts is a collection of open source software that has been ported to Mac OS. It's actually the largest such collection. There are other similar projects like Fink and Homebrew, which if you're a Mac user, you may have heard of. But MacPorts is the most comprehensive. I'm going to start by showing how to install Condor, I'm going to start by showing how to install MacPorts, and then go on to installing Condor and doing something with it on your computer. But MacPorts is also a great thing to have if you have a Mac and you do use open source software in your research. So for instance, I do a lot of Python programming, and MacPorts is the easiest way to get Python on your Mac, get an up-to-date version of Python on your Mac, get things that you need like plotting libraries and math libraries and things like that. But so the idea here is that you're developing some workflow. You're developing some workflow on your Mac. You've written some programs on your Mac. You've written some some C programs and some scripts and tested them locally. And then when you go to assemble it into a DAG or a Condor workflow, you suddenly have to go to an unfamiliar environment, a submit node for a cluster, and as you iterate through through developing your workflow, you have to make changes to the programs you've developed and the DAG, and it's harder because you don't have all the tools that you're used to having on your own personal machine, and so this is a way around that. So first, before you install MacPorts, you've obviously got to have a Mac, and MacPorts itself supports Tiger or version 10.4 or later. I'm going to focus on Lion and Mountain Lion because that's what I have. And so we'll just go through the installation section. So there's a link here, MacPorts installation instructions, that takes you to their web page. So the first thing is that so MacPorts is actually a source-based package manager, and so you're actually much of the time getting when you install something, MacPorts is actually pulling down the source for the project and building it for you on the spot. So you need a compiler toolchain. And so you need to install Apple's developer tools, also called Xcode. And so how you install Xcode varies a little bit from one version of macOS to another, but I'll just explain how to do it on Lion and Mountain Lion because that's where it's easiest. So what you do is you first, to get the easiest way to get Xcode is to go to the App Store. So I'm down at my dock in the left-hand corner of the screen, and it's this icon here. Click App Store. It looks like this. Just search for Xcode. Comes up, and here it is. I already have it installed, but it's this big honking download. It's a compiler and this fantastic IDE, but it takes a while. So I've already got it installed. But you just click install, and it goes and gets it for you. Okay, so that's the first step, getting Xcode. Then the next thing is that if you're using Xcode 4, you first have to accept an end-user license agreement that is the command line tools, the compiler and all that don't work until you've done that. But fortunately, if you just launch Xcode for the first time, it'll prompt you to do that. So you launch Xcode, looks like this. Okay. And then next, you've got to install the command line tools, which are really just symbolic links to the compilers that they're available in, when you just type GCC, it does what you expect. So when you launch Xcode for the first time, and if you don't use, this might be the only time you use Xcode for all I know, but you go to the Xcode menu, go to Preferences, and go to the Downloads pane. And there's this item called Command Line Tools, and you'd hit Install, and it would go off and install it. So far, so good? Okay, so you've got Xcode, and you've got the Command Line Tools installed. All right, next step is just to go and install MacPorts. So I put a link there. You can go to the MacPorts homepage, macports.org, and then there's a link in the left-hand pane here called Installing MacPorts. and you follow that link, and there are just, installers for every version of macOS. So I have Mountain Lion, so I went and downloaded Mountain Lion, and it went into my downloads folder. It's just this ordinary, installer like any other program on macOS, and you open it up and you just go through it and you install it. So that's pretty self-explanatory. I've already done that, so I have MacPorts installed now. So next, so MacPorts itself is pretty stable, but there are always new ports being added, and as packages get updated upstream, they make it into MacPorts. And so to keep your ports tree up to date, you run sudo port self-update, which goes and fetches all the latest and greatest stuff. So I'll just do that. So you've just installed MacPorts, and then you've got to update your ports. So here I am in my terminal, and I run sudo port self-update, put in my password, and it goes and syncs up. It'll take a second or two. Okay, and that's great. So now we have MacPorts installed and up to date. And so now we'll install Condor. So I'll just run through a few useful commands for MacPorts. So the first is locating a port by its name. So it's just port search. So let's go back to our terminal, and I'll type port search Condor. Okay, so it says there's one port found called HT Condor, and it's a specialized workload management system for compute-intensive jobs. Okay, great. So now let's say I want to learn a little bit more about that port, like what it depends on, more about what it does. I'd type port info HT Condor. Okay, so it's a port that's in the science, parallel, and networking categories. It has this longer description. It has a home page, and it depends on, let's see, Boost, XPath, all these other things, which MacPorts will install for us automatically when we install Condor. Let me make sure I have Condor not installed already. There we go. Yeah, it had Condor installed. Okay, so there are a few other useful commands to, oh, right, okay, right. So now we're going to install Condor. So it's really easy. Just do sudo port install HT Condor, like that. It goes off and downloads it, installs it, puts it in place. Great, cool. So we're going to do Condor status now. Oh, I have Condor running. Let me turn off Condor, because that's supposed to come later in the tutorial. Okay. All right, so a few other useful commands to know are port go home. Takes you to the home page. It's a quick way to get to the documentation. And then port contents, which tells you what files are provided by the port. But now, to the meat, is we're going to start up our personal Condor pool. It's really easy. Just do sudo port load HT Condor. And we can watch our Condor pool coming up. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so I have all the cores on my Mac are getting Condor slots, and so they just all came up. Great. And look at our activity monitor, and actually see that all of the different Condor processes are running. Great. Okay, so what port load does is that if a port has startup items or services that it provides, it says it loads those services and tells your Mac to load those services anytime it starts up. To unload it or to turn Condor off, which you might want to do when you're not using it, it's just sudo port unload HT Condor, and that also persists across reboots. Okay, great. So we have a little Condor pool running. Fantastic. So let's make a little Condor workflow. So I'm going to make a new directory called Condor example. I'm going to open my favorite text editor. I'm going to write a little submit file. It's going to be that, generic do nothing executable, bin sleep. It's going to take some arguments, sleepy time. We're going to queue one of them. Okay, so I'm going to save that as sleep.sub. I'll make another submit file. And this is going to just echo something. I'm going to put an intentional mistake in here, so we'll have a chance to play around with some of Condor's, things like Condor RM, Condor submit, just that we'll be debugging something. So executable equals bin echo, arguments equals echo message. Great. Call that echo.sub. Now I'll make a DAG. So we'll have a few different nodes that will sleep for different amounts of time. So we'll have one that sleeps for 5 seconds. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to have this guy is going to output to echo.out. Okay. And back to where I was. Sleep2 sleepy time equals 10. Job sleep3 sleep.sub vars sleep3 sleepy time equals 2. Great. Now we'll add one more job. And we'll put in some parent-child relationships. There we go. There's our DAG. All right. So now let's go and submit this DAG. So I'll go back to my terminal. All right, here I am. I have my 2 submit files and my DAG. So we just do condor submit DAG, sleepy.dag. Sweet. All right, now let's watch our condor queue as it fills up. So our DAG's running there. Great. Let's see what's going on with the DAG. We have some jobs running. Spin for a second. Be finishing up here in a moment. Here we go. Our last job is about to come up. Oh no, it didn't work. Okay, so the mistake here is pretty clear. It's that we forgot to put a queue command in our job file. So let's remove all jobs. Okay, all our jobs are dead. Let's fix that mistake. Put in a queue command here. And go back to our terminal and submit the rescue DAG. There we go, finished. Now, let's take a look at our output file. Yes, our DAG worked. Okay, it's ready for production. We can submit it to our cluster now. So we're done with Condor. So now we're going to unload it. And there we go. Our Condor pool is offline. Great. Okay. So this is how. So now you have a personal Condor pool on your Mac that only you can submit jobs to. You don't have to wait in line for nodes to become available, and you can test workflows locally. So there are a few caveats. The most important one is that on macOS, Condor doesn't support the standard universe, which allows you to do checkpointing. It only does the vanilla universe. That's really the only main thing to be aware of. So are there any questions?
So a question, it's when you close your laptop or you move, will automatically put everything on halt and restart when it's open, or are there inconveniences?
Actually, yeah, that's right. So you can you don't even have to be connected to the internet. You can close your laptop lid, reopen it, and be in a place with a completely different Wi-Fi network. Ordinarily, Condor wants the machine that you're submitting things from and the machine that you're submitting things to both to have static IP addresses. But in this case, I've configured Condor so that IP address is it's basically localhost. So so you don't need to, if you close your laptop lid, the moment you open it back up, your jobs will continue running, even if you've switched wireless networks. And actually, for those of you who don't have a Mac, can you? I guess you can probably still see my screen. Yeah. So this is this was actually the hardest part of creating this port, is creating this configuration file. I mean, it's actually not that hard to install Condor, but setting up your own personal Condor pool takes some doing. But if you do, this is one reason why I introduced the port contents command. So if you do port contents htcondor, okay, that went by a little quickly. But let's do grep config. Okay, so let's see. Opt local etc condor config. It's this one and this one. These two files. So these are the two files that I added that creates the personal Condor pool. And it's probably straightforward to adapt those to any platform. There are just a few things about where the Condor executables are, but otherwise you could probably set this up on a Debian machine, a Red Hat machine, maybe even a Windows machine, and have your own personal Condor pool no matter what operating system you have.
Good. Any more question? So for all the other attendees, if you want to talk and ask a question, up in the top left side of the Adobe Connect screen, there is a little microphone. You might have to click it, or sometime even to start your audio before having the microphone. Or you can type also the question in the chat box and refer it. In the meantime, I have another question. So if I want to port then the workflow that I was running there, I just copy the Condor, the DAG file, and all the files of my jobs, and you run it on the other machine. What would be normally your procedure once you test on your laptop? How do you send it to the cluster where you want to run? I think your microphone is not working, Leo.
How about now? Yeah. Oh, okay. As I was saying, so usually I have my DAGs and submit files either themselves or the scripts, like a Python or shell script that generates the DAGs in version control. So I use Git, for instance, or maybe use Subversion. So I have that repository checked out on my Mac and also on the cluster. So I'd develop the workflow on my Mac once it's and commit it, and then check it out on the cluster and run it. if that's not your style, certainly you could copy your submit files and DAGs onto the cluster. Or if you use Bosco, actually, hopefully when the next release of Condor comes out and has Bosco built in, you could submit it with Bosco instead of to a remote cluster instead of submitting it to your own machine. Another option is I like something called SSHFS, which allows you to take any machine to which you have SSH access and make part of its file system also part of your file system. So I can actually mount my data analysis clusters, my home directory there as a directory on my Mac, and then I just I can copy things over, I can edit things in place. I can just open my favorite text editor and open a file that actually lives on the cluster. I mean, there are all sorts of options. I was also going to say, if anyone does have some questions or if they try this out and they want to give and they have any feedback, if you do port info htcondor, one thing you see is maintainers and aramax@macports.org. That's my MacPorts email address, and so you could address questions about the support to that address. Oh, thank you, Rob. Hope it's helpful. If you're not a MacPorts user already, I hope I've sold you. What other questions do people have, if any?
Sorry, I was muted. I don't see other question about the tutorial. Thank you, Leo, for sharing this with us. And this concludes this part of the meeting, and we'll continue with the rest of the meeting about the Bosco testing. You're welcome to stay. Anyone is welcome to stay in the meeting. If you are not interested, you're welcome to drop the call or the connection. And thank you for attending.